Hello, my name is Donna Ellis. I'm the creator of the Active Rest Fitness Program and Lifestyle, and I am inviting you to meet me on the deck. On the deck is where I help people get active for at least 30 minutes a day by providing workouts to fit any schedule and to eliminate most excuses. I also encourage people to prioritize rest and restorative sleep, to practice mindfulness in their eating habits as well as in their physical abilities, and to build a community of support amongst family members, neighbors, and friends. If any of these things sound interesting to you, then please listen to this video. Like the video by hitting that like button, share the video with someone you love, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also start by taking some actionable steps outlined in this video. Hello. Today's topic from the deck today is all about moms. With Mother's Day approaching, I wanted to talk to the moms about some of the things that are instilled in us about motherhood, some of those iceberg thoughts that I mentioned in an earlier message about motherhood and how that can affect having like mom guilt and the things that we feel bad for when it comes to being a mom. And I also want to focus in on how to get rest as a mom and how to also get support as a mom. So those are the three categories in which I'm going to break things up. First, we'll talk about those iceberg thoughts and how they can expose themselves in our mom guilt, how we get rest, and then again, how we get support. So one of the things I've talked about earlier or in an earlier message is iceberg thoughts, and those iceberg thoughts are those things that that are kind of under the surface, those things that are in our subconscious. We don't realize that these are the things or events that have happened to us, things in our life, things that we've been taught, these beliefs that then kind of lead into how we live. It bleeds into our character, who we think we should be, and things of that, how we behave, things of that nature. So there's a lot of iceberg thoughts I think that we are programmed to think about, being a mom. So first thing is, when you think about a mom, you think of somebody who's very nurturing, who is the caregiver to her children, the primary caregiver to her children. You don't, those are just some things that you don't necessarily think about when you think about dad, that person who is the primary caregiver, or the person who nurtures the child, cares for the child, is up in the middle of the night with the child when the child is sick, and things of that nature. And so some of those things that we've been taught about motherhood and what it is to be a mother can bleed over into mom guilt when we start, when there are some things that are tugging against that. So the first thing I want to bring up is that there was a meme circulating on social media. Maybe a few months ago, I saw it, where it said, my mom never felt like she needed a break from her kids. That's a new age mom, thought, the thought that, moms need a break from their children. And I kind of want to challenge that and say that I do believe that moms, even back in the day, needed a break from their kids. It's just that they didn't really have the tools or the guidance or maybe the support to get that break. It's not necessarily that they didn't need it, but they've been fed the idea that they shouldn't need a break from their kids. They've been made to feel guilty if they need a break from their kids, or something is wrong with them, or they don't love their kids, if they even think or admit that they need a break. But I'm almost certain that most moms, especially very heavily involved moms, did need a break from those duties at some point. And that's what kind of leads into that mom guilt that we see now, is how people judge mothers who say, I do need a break. It's hard. These kids are getting on my nerves. Because a lot of us now as mothers, we are working mothers. We're not stay-at-home moms where our primary job is to be home, in the home with the kids, taking care of the home, taking care of the children. We're also working just as much as the men in our lives, if not more. And we're being punished for it to a certain degree more, because let's say we do get pregnant. We don't get paid, a lot of us don't get, paid time off. You only get about 6 months maybe of maternity leave here in the United States. I know in other countries they get a little bit more. They care a little bit more about the moms and how the mom, need time to care, for the child and to heal at that, as well. And so we don't necessarily get that, but there's all this guilt associated with needing a break, needing time off. Like you're supposed to, as soon as the baby is born, boom, you're supposed to jump into it instantly. and it doesn't always happen that way. So, some of the other things that, and I'm going to pull just from some personal experience, things that I've been made to feel kind of guilty about, or people that I know. And one of those things is missing, like, events, a child's events, or their firsts. So, I was getting ready to plan a trip to plan our yearly active rest retreat, and I didn't quite know when. My daughter's first day of school would be. She's going to be entering kindergarten. And I was going to plan that trip. I had a date set. Didn't know. I said, well, if I miss her first day of school, then I just miss her first day of school. She has a dad. She has a very active dad. He can take her to the first day of school. I'll go to like meet the parents or open house or something like that. I'll do that part. And people were really like, oh my God, I could never miss my child's like first day of kindergarten and all of that. People were like shocked that I was even considering the idea of missing my daughter's, first day of kindergarten. And she has not been to school. She doesn't go to daycare. She's never been in daycare. So it really will be a big first for her. But it's something also that I felt like my husband could handle. Like he could take her, because I don't like traffic. I don't like crowds. And I know that that's what's going to go on. And then I also think back to when, like on my first day of school, my mom didn't take me. She put me right on the bus, and I went to school. At least with her, I wanted to ensure that somebody would be there with her. And because I also, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, the support system, but because I do have a great support system, my brother-in-law has offered to take her to school her first day and walk her in. And then I said it would be really cool if my brother-in-law and my husband took my daughter to school for the first day, because how many men do that? I bet I've never been to the school on the first day, but I do know that women, moms, feel emotional about it. And I just wonder how many men, take their kids to school on the first day. So I think that that would be something, if it does happen that way, I think it would be something really exciting for her to have her uncle and her dad escort her to school for the first day. Also, speaking of firsts, and this is just a little aside, those kids, their first words are always dada. So let dada be the first one to jump up and take them somewhere, or jump up and be somewhere for them. So my next thing is what I've seen with a lot of people that I try to encourage to take a break from, just from mothering. You're always a mother. Once you have a child, you're a mother. You love your kids. It doesn't mean that you don't love your kid, but just the mothering can be, a lot. And so I try to encourage them to, go on a rest retreat, or, just go away by themselves. And sometimes when I plan a trip or want to do something, they'll say, oh, I can't because my kid has something going on. And what I've noticed with that is a lot of mothers, they'll miss these events that are so important that they can't go and take a rest trip, but they will miss for work. And there's one incident in particular where I had a lady who told me that she couldn't go because her child had a sporting event. And so during the school year, I talked to him one day. It was like a Saturday, and I said, she mentioned that her child had a sporting event. I was like, oh, so you've been, at this event all day? And she was like, no, I went to go to work. And I know that this is a job that she doesn't like need. It's not like like, because some people, they have to go and make money in order to live, like they have to work several jobs, but this isn't a job that this person needs. And they went to work, so they were willing to miss their child's event for this particular, to go and make money, but not to go on a rest retreat for that. Oh, I got to be there for my child. That's the way it was presented to me. So I just want to challenge you as a mother to think about like what you're really prioritizing. Are you really prioritizing the child when you say, no, I can't go away for rest because of my child? But think about it. Will you go to work? If you had to go to work, would you miss work to go to that event? Instead of going to that, in order to go to that event. So, you got to really think about like what really are your priorities, or are you sinking into that mom guilt of, I can't get any rest. I can't do anything for me. I have to be there for my child. If my child has something, then all else is off for me, forget that they got a dad that could be there, because some people don't have that luxury. But in most cases there's someone else who could be there. It doesn't necessarily have to be you. So just think about that. The other one, the last thing I want to talk about as far as like iceberg thoughts, things that we've been taught, things that lead to our mom guilt, is that unconditional love. And this is one that goes even beyond like little kids, because sometimes I understand when you have young children, but this unconditional love is the thing that I see mothers struggle with, even into like adulthood, and mothers and fathers, but because I'm specifically talking about mothers, you know, that I see them struggle with this even into their children's adulthood. And I just want to say, I think unconditional love is a scam. I think it's a tool of manipulation. Um, I love my daughter. I think I'll love her through whatever. I don't think she'll always do the right thing, but there are some things that I know that I've instilled in her that she's going to lean and hold on to. But that unconditional love, I have to do this for my child. I have to go be here because my child wants me to do this. I have to struggle because my child needs this, even though they are 25, 26, 30, 40 years old. um, it's a scam, and they are probably manipulating you into doing these things and overworking yourself, and then now you can't get rest. I know women who work part-time jobs to take care of adult kids, so think about that. You're missing out on rest. Like, you're working a regular job and a part-time job to take care of your adult child or to help out your adult child. So, these are just some things, all because of that unconditional love. If my child needs me, I'm going to be there for them no matter what. So I'm just challenging you to think about, those ideals, those things in your head, like, is that manipulation? Is that unconditional love? Will you give up this? Will you go to work instead of going to your child's event versus getting some rest instead of going to your child's event? These are just some things I want you to think about. Now, moving on. So those are just some of those, those iceberg thoughts, and how we deal with mom guilt and how it presents itself. So now I want to talk about rest, as a mom, and just pull from some things that I've done personally. Like, I have, last year, I spent Mother's Day away from my child. Now, I tell you this because it was one of the most relaxing days, for me. I went to my hometown, which is about 2.5 hours from where I live. There was a graduation party. My cousin was having a graduation party, so we was going to that, and it just so happened that to be on Mother's Day. Now, mind you, at this time in my life, I was taking care of my dad, which means I was driving that 2.5 hours there and back sometimes in a day, several days out of the month, to take my dad to appointments and to make sure he was well. Also, mind you, just about a month and a half earlier, I had lost my mom. My mom had passed away, and we had been home back and forth, making the final arrangements for her, and doing some things just kind of in support of the family there. All this time that I'm doing this ripping and running, I have my child with me. She's going with me. Remember, she's not in school. My husband works. So she was traveling with me. And so I was getting ready to go home for Mother's Day. We're just going to go home like that day for that party. And then, we were going to go clean up my mom's grave and put some flowers out. And my husband, he said, oh, our daughter, she could stay with me. I'll take her to church. She'll be fine because she loves to go to church. So she'll be fine. And when I went home without my daughter, you would have thought that I left her at home with a stranger, like just left her out in the streets. Like, not to mention she was with her dad, but it's Mother's Day and you don't have your daughter with you. But, I spend a lot of time with my daughter, and sometimes I need a break from her. And it was just a day for me to kind of ride along with my sister and ride to our hometown and for me to relax. But that mom guilt is not just from you. Other people will place it on you, and you kind of have to fight that. and combat that mom guilt. So that was one of the things I did. And, I do enjoy time away from my child. I do spend a lot of time with my child, but I will also I enjoy time away from her too, as long as I know that she's safe and, getting the proper care. Another thing, and I keep looking down because I'm looking at my notes. Another thing is taking solo trips. That was another thing that I did where I went on a trip after my dad passed away last year, and I just needed a break, and I just needed some time to myself, like just to literally just to rest, like to sleep when I wanted to sleep, to do absolutely nothing if I didn't want to do anything, and to not be on anybody else's clock and subject to anybody else's time. And there's a guy at work. He said, you left your husband and you left your daughter. It's a weekend. Like, I didn't go for a long time. I just went away for a weekend. And he acted like I just abandoned my family. And, but it was so, it felt so good for me. It was just nice. And not only just taking trips to go away, but here recently, my husband took my daughter. He went to visit a friend, and he took my daughter out of town with him and left me here at the house. Now, I did have to go to work. I continued my workouts and things like that. But to have the house to myself for like 4 days, it was just really nice. And I missed them when they were gone. I was happy to see them when they came back. But it was an enjoyable time, to go to bed on time, to not have to worry about, bathing the baby, getting her to bed, getting her to sleep, getting her fed. I was just responsible for me. And so I was able to enjoy that time. Now, I will say on here, I did have, as far as getting rest, taking girls' trips, but I think that's like more of an acceptable thing. That's not something that people would kind of come at you crazy about, because that's becoming more and more acceptable that, women will go, out of town together for a girls' trip. But these other things are some ways in which we rest, that I rest, that are not as acceptable, as far as society is concerned. But I want to challenge you to give it a try, because it does feel good to get away on your own for a little bit. Then, and so now that brings me to the third thing when I talk about support. Like, you hear me mention the support that I get from my husband on here a lot. I mention it a lot. And this is something that I want to encourage folks who are thinking about having a baby, who might not have become mothers yet. Please choose a co-parent that wants to be actively involved in the child's life. Don't just choose someone who wants a child to carry on his bloodline and carry on his name. I will share with you that when I met my husband, he was with his daughter. When I first started like seeing him around, like at the park and stuff, he always had his daughter, our oldest daughter, with him. At the time, she was 11 years old, I believe, and they were always together. He always had a child. And one thing I knew about him is he had joint custody of his child, like 50% custody, where she was with him one week and with her mom the next week. And I had never seen a man have joint custody like that, like 50%. I had never seen that. And so I knew that he was a dad that wanted to be a dad. He enjoyed being a dad, to this little girl. So I knew that he was somebody that I could, if things went further and we got married, he was somebody that I would definitely want to father my children. Something just flew in my eye, I'm sorry. To father my children. And so I challenge you, if you don't have children yet, or if you're planning to have more children, make sure that the person you're having children with wants to be an active parent in that child's life. Excuse me, y'all. Something just flew into my eye. But I'm out here with my flowers and stuff. The bugs love the flowers. And so that's one thing I want to share with you. Like right now, I'm recording this message. My daughter's at the park with my husband. Like, I'm at the house by myself. And that happens quite often. So that brings me to my next thing, is to share your views with others so that they can do a better job of supporting you. Like, you want that support. But a lot of times, and I say it here too, that a lot of times the support that you don't get is only because you haven't asked for it. That has been very true in my life. is my husband understands that I need time alone. Like it just is what it is. That's how I recharge. Um, that's kind of how I just get my bearings. That's how I get my cup filled to pour into them, into my family. Is I do need some time alone, and I don't mean like I need days alone or whatever, but just an hour or two here or there is pretty good. And so he will take that time, and he will go and take my daughter to the park for an hour or two. Like I just had battle assembly. I'm in the military, and so we had drill this weekend, and I just got home, a few hours earlier. And he said, we're getting ready to go to the park. Are you going to take a nap? Or I said, I don't know. I might, record my message. I might do a little bit of exercise. But when they come home, I'll feel, energized and ready to entertain them and be with them. So I always say, let people know what your boundaries are, what it is that you need, as far as being a mom, as far as, allow people to help you. Tell them what you need and allow them to assist you. And so that's where that good support system comes in. And I feel like I definitely have that, right here in the home with me, with my husband. And so now I want to just kind of wrap things up. So this is to all the moms. We've talked about getting some rest, getting some support. That was our focus today. And so the first thing we kind of introduced those iceberg thoughts and how it can lead to mom guilt, some of the things that we've been taught and trained and ingrained in us that can lead to us feeling guilty about certain behaviors when we feel like we might be tired of the kids or the kids are getting on our nerves. I've shared with you some ways in which I get rest when I feel like mothering is becoming like overwhelming for me, and I've talked to you about some ways to get some support that you need. So now what I want you to do is I want you to start. I want you to take some action. And so I'm going to give you three things right here. I want you to start by realizing what your iceberg thoughts are. Realize what those thoughts are. What do you feel about motherhood? How do you feel about motherhood? What are your thoughts on motherhood? And being a mom, and what do you think that entails? What duties do you think that includes for you, and how you relate to your children? So first of all, try to identify any iceberg thoughts that you have about motherhood. They could be good or bad. Then know that you can change them. So if these are thoughts that you feel like you're not happy with settling into these thoughts, you have the right to change your thoughts about a thing. It's up to you. So you gotta be aware of those iceberg thoughts. You gotta know that you can change those thoughts. And then thirdly, I want you to reject anything, any thought, any idea, or any person who does not provide you the support that you need in these change thoughts, these change behaviors as it relates to motherhood. Sometimes you got to stop people at the door, because they will make you feel bad about going home and spending the day, without your child, your Mother's Day without your child, or going on a trip without your family. People will do that, and you have to stop them in their tracks and say, this is how I choose to take care of myself and take care of my family. And so that's those are some things that I want you to kind of look into and think about. So with that, I hope that you've learned something always. I hope that I've given you some new ideas. I hope that I've encouraged you and motivated you to start to change, whatever those thoughts are that are, um, that are keeping you just tired and overwhelmed. And I hope that you can eliminate some of those thoughts, to those iceberg thoughts, and become a better person, so then you can become a better parent, a better spouse, a better significant other, to your family. And so with that, thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great day.